What is your assessment of the impact of the El Nino-induced drought on Southern Africa?
Southern Africa region has a big problem at hand at the moment. Zimbabwe has lost a great deal of their maize crop, roughly half. Zambia is the same situation. And in South Africa, we see that the summer crop is also down by somewhere around about 18 to 20%. And all of the other nations, really the likes of Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland, are experiencing the negative impact of this El Nino. So it has been quite devastating, but it has been different than, take, for example, the 2015-16 drought, because at the time we started off knowing that we were in a deep El Nino period. But this time around, we started off knowing that there is a possibility of an El Nino, but the rainfall allowed farmers across the region to start planting well. The problem only began around about February to March, where we did not receive any significant rainfall across the region. I'm emphasizing this because it meant then that farmers have actually experienced major losses because they went out there planting with the hope that the weather conditions would be improved. But all in all, the region has a big problem at hand in the current season.
Right. About 18.3 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance across Zimbabwe, Zambia, as well as Malawi. What does this mean for the state of food security for the region?
I think in the region, we are already experiencing some food security challenges. I mean, if you just look at the food inflation dynamics in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Malawi, it is at levels where I think many households are under severe pressure. It has been slightly better in some countries like South Africa, who are major producers and utilizing genetically modified crops, because although the drought has been sharp and it's a double-digit decline in the harvest from the previous season, the current crop is still able to cover their domestic needs. But the story of South Africa is important to this regional dynamic because South Africa produces roughly half of the region's maize. So when you see a decline in a maize crop there, it means then that even the likes of Zimbabwe and the others will struggle, particularly towards the end of this year into 2025, to import maize, which means that the food insecurity and the food price inflation pressures that we are seeing now, this is something that I think will likely be with us until the first quarter of 2025, which is when then we'll be looking forward to say what the next season will be. But the pressures are there.
Right, and what alternatives could countries like Zimbabwe and Zambia be possibly looking at, given, of course, the fact that Zambia is traditionally an exporter of grain, but it seems that they have declared a state of disaster during this El Nino-induced drought. What is your focus going forward, and what alternatives could be at the disposal of the affected Southern African countries?
You know, I think as Southern Africa, there's a certain few things that we need to think about. Firstly, for the governments, I do think that the policy from the government side is that we should avoid the panic whereby we are blocking the exports and we're putting the price caps. We should not do that because while in the near term, it may help on ensuring that whatever supplies that are available in country, they serve the consumer in the near term. But that disincentivizes the farmers from actually planting for the longer term, because in the next season, farmers will say, look, if the government can intervene at any time and block exports, that takes away then the incentive of planting for that particular period. The second aspect also for the Southern African governments, I do think that we need to be open and embrace the seed technologies that are available there so that we can boost our domestic production. The likes of South Africa have embraced improved seed varieties, either genetically modified or whatever strains that are available. And I think the Southern African region should do that. But for the near term, I do think that it's important, again, for the Southern African government, together with the businesses, to interact with Mexico and the US, because outside our region, the major white maize producer is only Mexico, but Mexico and the US are at their planting period right now, and they may be able to plant some of the maize for export later in the year to the Southern Africa region, provided that we do contact them and are able to put all of that on contract. But I think let's be clear, the fact that many households are under pressure, they won't be able to pick up a call and talk to farmers to plant for them in Mexico and elsewhere, which is why then it's important that even the likes of World Food Program, they come on a table and say, we have these millions of people in Southern Africa that are under pressure, and how do we begin to resolve them?
Right.
So
Konapo Konapo, Ipapo Ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.